Thanks for joining us today, guys. Before we get started, we have an exclusive offer from our sponsor over at the Personal Defense Network. Now, PDN is offering their full year premium membership for only $2. That's 98% off the normal price. You don't need a code, you just need my link. go.personaldefensenetwork.com/topshotdustin. I know it's long. Go look in the link tree. We'll make it easy for you. When you join the PDN, you're joining a bunch of like-minded people. Okay, thousands of folks who are committed to developing their personal defense and firearms training skills. That's right. Premium membership will give you access to hundreds of hours of full-length videos led by expert instructors. No, they're better than me. You'll learn about emergency medical techniques, armed and unarmed defense, firearms training, security techniques and tactics, defensive gear, and a lot more. So get that premium membership for only $2 for the year over at go.personaldefensenetwork.com/topshotdustin. Now let's get on with the video. So now we're ready to mount our optic. Nick walked me through going prone and getting my right length of pull, at least what felt right, because that will come into play on the position we mount our scope for our eye relief, right?
Absolutely. We got to make sure the gun is fit to you before we start mounting the scope, because otherwise you get the scope mounted and everything, and then you have to make a stock adjustment, and then you have to mess with the scope again. Yeah. So make sure the rifle is fit to you before we get into scope mount.
And that may blow some guys' minds that get their scope mounted at Academy when they pick it up, and it's just like, wow. You mount it to for your own eye, for your own body build and everything. Right. There's a lot of variables.
That's right. You got to make sure that everything is fit to you specifically, so it's most comfortable for you, and not just in one position, but multitude positions: prone, sitting, kneeling, off head. So we're going to spend some time, make sure that the scope positioning for your eye relief is the best suited for all-around shooting. Awesome.
So we threw our rings up here. They're pretty loose, but so we can move them around. What do we do after this?
Yeah, so you already got a 20-minute base on this rifle, so that's going to help make sure that you get some extra elevation adjustment out of there. But for right now, we're just going to
for those guys that don't know, that means this is at a slant, so our scope is exaggerated,
right?
Pointing downward. So when we go long range, we have that adjustment. Don't run out of space.
Right. You get a little bit extra adjustment internally through your scope. For right now, we're just going to kind of start out with our rings about where it looks like they're going to need to be, and the cross bolts on the rail clamp, we'll tighten those down to 35 inch-pounds.
Okay.
For these, when we first set the scope on there, we're just going to very lightly kind of snug to where you can still adjust the scope fore and aft and rotate it and get everything leveled out.
So I always like to just kind of center it in where there's the most meat. Is that?
Yeah.
Or does it even matter? I mean, these are so strong in the first place, at least in this
so
brand.
Ideally, you'd want them as far apart as you could get them, right? So that you reduce the leverage, especially if the front objective takes a bump. Less leverage if the scope is further forward, or the ring is further forward on the scope.
Okay.
But at the same time, depending on the slots for the Picatinny rail, it might not be all the way up at this junction here for where the objective bell starts. For my personal technique, the forward ring, because these rings do have a recoil lug built into the bottom side of them, right? The forward ring, I want that recoil lug pushed all the way up against the Picatinny slot. What I like to do is on the rear ring, when I put that on there, I actually want that to be pulled back. So the forward one is forward, the rear one is back, and so it kind of locks it into that Picatinny rail a little bit. And then also, if your rifle does take a fall like on the butt, this is going to help prevent, so those rings don't want to slip back on that Picatinny rail. It's just another preventative measure, and you got good recoil engagement there on that forward ring for your normal recoil forces. All
right, so we're going to go ahead and split these rings and start putting it on. Now, if you are wondering what tool we use here, this is Fix-It sticks, and they have torque limiters that we can put on there. It's really handy. All right.
Yep.
Everything looks good.
For now, we're just going to put the caps back on, and just lightly, just enough to kind of hold it in place, but you can still make a forward and back adjustment. And one of the things that we try to do is make sure that we have equal gap between the top and the bottom half of the rings. And it's just an eyeball.
And now we're not using thread lock.
No, don't need thread locker for these, not at all.
Okay, can we still move? Is that about right?
Yep. And from now, we'll go lay prone and kind of get this adjusted, but we do want to be on maximum magnification for this. So what we'll be looking for is make sure that you have full field of view through the scope. when you get down, you're in position. And so we might need to make a comb height adjustment. So when you get on there and you first start looking through the scope, you're not adjusting your head up and down and left and right and forward and back.
Gotcha.
Well, we're first going to set this up under prone conditions. But then as a double check, once we kind of level everything out and you're mostly set, then we'll check, make sure it's still looking good for you in different positions. But for now, prone is the best position to go ahead and do this in. So let's go ahead and set it to 27 magnification. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and crank that up. And so the reason that we do that is that's going to have the tightest, most compact field of view. So you want to make sure that you have full field of view at maximum magnification. Yeah, go ahead and get behind the gun and just let me know if it feels like you need to lift your cheek.
Oh, wow, I need to go a good bit lower, actually.
Okay, yep, so I'll make that adjustment.
All right, now I start to see.
Okay, good. Do you feel like you have to push your head forward or back?
Okay, I believe it needs to go forward just a little.
Okay, so I'll just...
Okay.
Adjustment.
Get back on, eyes are closed, eyes are open, and okay, I just need to scoot that way. Yeah, no forward or backwards, it seems good now.
Okay, go ahead and come completely out of the gun. I'm just going to cover this. And then back into it. Keep your eyes open. Okay. You can't see anything because my hand's in the way. When I move my hand, you should have good field of view.
Yep, good field of view.
Outstanding. Okay, so if we wanted to, we could move this forward ring forward one more position, but honestly, I don't see a problem with it how it is. I would rather just leave it like that, and what we'll do is we'll take this to the Short Action Customs final scope level, and we'll level out the reticle so you don't have that that cant.
Normal guys would keep this on the rifle and do it, but you've got this fancy Short Action Customs, what is this?
Yeah, it's called the final scope level.
Okay, cool.
And it's a highly precision machined piece of equipment that's really, really useful, specifically for setting up your scope and being able to test tracking of your elevation, your wind adjustments, and all that. And I use it a lot for just setting up my scopes and making sure that they're exactly level. And I do this in combination with a hanging plumb line downrange, typically. So what's nice about this, like I said, is precision machined to where these surfaces here are perfectly flat in relation with the Picatinny rail on there. And so what we did is we used this little, just a little pocket bubble level, and we put it on the back side over here, and we leveled that out. So we knew that the unit here, the Short Action Customs level, was perfectly level left and right.
We had some feeler gauges. This is another technique.
And so what you can do is you can get the exact right thickness between the Picatinny rail and the flat on the bottom of the scope. So what you can do is get that wedged in there to where your scope doesn't want to rock left and right at all. Then you know that will be level then as well with the Picatinny rail on the rifle.
We're just spacing it the same. Maybe guys haven't done precision rifle or any long range stuff. Why is the scope being level so important?
To make sure that when you make an adjustment on your elevation turret, it is tracking straight up and down. Otherwise, if your scope is on there a little bit canted, you make an adjustment, and then your reticle is moving at an angle. Right. And then when you make that adjustment, you're inducing more angle into your distance.
And even holdovers, right?
Exactly.
So you hold up, you're actually holding up and now to the left because your scope was canted.
That's right, yeah. So you want to make sure that that thing is exactly straight up and down.
Very important for long range. So from here we mounted on the rifle and we're about ready.
Yep, and so what we did once we made sure that everything was as level as we can get it, we just tightened these back down a little bit. We need to do the final snug down to 20 inch-pounds. Put this back on your rifle, and then we'll have you check a couple different positions, make sure that eye relief is still good. Perfect. For alternate shooting positions.
All right, so we were on that second run. Does that look about right?
Yep.
Go ahead and push forward, I suppose, or... So I feel just a little wobble, is that?
Yeah, just a little bit.
And then what are we torquing these to?
Those go to 30 inch-pounds on those screws.
We're clicking at torque.
All right.
Go prone again?
We're good to go. Yeah, let's set up prone and make sure that you are comfortable still.
Right there, just right away. Good light as soon as I got on it.
Perfect.
Okay.
All these are all nice and tightened down, right? All the screws and everything. So since you pushed this all the way forward,
correct,
when you did that, and you had still just a little bit of fore and aft play,
right?
So I'm going to loosen all these screws up on this one here and just make sure that it slides back.
Sounds great.
That way we know that that's locked in there, and nothing else is going to change on your rifle because this ring is holding everything in position.
There it
we
is.
go. And then tighten that.
Bottom first?
Yep.
So now we should be all good and solid and equal pressure and everything else.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good to go.
Now we shoot.
Now we're bore side.
Yay. Yeah, well, yeah, that's easy enough. All right, so it's taken a while to get to this point where we had to accessorize it and mount it and get everything fit for me. So stay tuned. Next video, we finally get to shoot. We're gonna go over the proper way to zero and get your bore sighted and everything, get on target and get this thing ready to start shooting. Well, let's just go dead center. Whoop, nailed it. Blooper reel.